Alrighty, welcome back to the Yarn Yard podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Austin, and we're back again with Scott McIntosh. Is that how you pronounce your surname?
Yeah, bro, McIntosh, that's it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we've actually spoken about it, but there's another Scott McIntosh that was in my life.
No
that was,
shit.
that was like a very pivotal character. Yeah.
No way, Scott McIntosh, the exact same
but
name.
it did have an A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, M-A-C.
Like the computer. Yeah, mine's MC.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get into it. What I wanted to start this podcast off with is a quote, which is one of my favorite quotes, and it's that a man will never step in the same river twice because he's not the same man. It's not the same river.
Yeah, wow.
And I feel like that's where we're at right now, you know? Like we're both completely different people probably from the last time we sat together, and there's a whole different can of worms we can probably get into.
Man, it's so true. That's such a beautiful saying, because obviously the river's always moving.
Yeah.
And we're always changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
it's one of my favorites. It also helps me just like go outside too, you know, places that you've been to before.
Yeah. I guess that's the beautiful thing about nature. It just never stops evolving. Like it's just the constant death and rebirth cycle, whereas when you go into like a shopping center, it's just, there's so much matter, and it does change, but just so slowly compared to going out in nature. Like shit's just changing every week, every second. Yeah, I really like that, man. It's giving me something to think about.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to use it as kind of like a point of direction, I guess. So I guess given that quote, what changes have been happening for you? You've just been in WA doing some workshops.
Yeah, man. I actually did a men's retreat, and then I did a workshop like based around the work that I'm doing. Like, I guess trying to guide myself and others through the tools that I've found like work for me to help live like, I'd say like a highly purposeful and highly vibrational life. And like I've been offering programs around like building that type of life and the structures that I've put in place, I guess, to work for me. So I believe if something's worked for me, it can help others. So that's kind of just where I've been putting a lot of my attention. But I feel like I hit kind of like this massive peak on that trip, like business peak, and like got quite a few new clients, and everything seemed to be rolling well. And like the paradox of that is like when I felt that like I was hitting like some type of peak in my career in this path, I also felt like this side of my personality that wanted to like almost pull back and stop like chasing purpose so much and just like head home and go and see my family. So I think that's just like maybe me just listening to my soul, trying to find homeostasis between like the balance of like chasing purpose and chasing success, and then also just love and connection. So that's kind of what's been going on for me. What about you, bro?
I love that, man. And I feel like, you are going through a big transition in a way. Like you just now engaged, and it's like all happening. So
be a married man soon.
Yeah, that's cool to see you stepping into that.
Thanks, bro. What about you?
Yeah, man, I mean, since the last time we sat down together, I feel like lot's happened. Yeah. Been traveling. I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, which was, really good for me. I think I always think it's funny because like anyone that knows me just like probably knows me for like slowing down and like taking things slow. And I feel like I preach that a lot, but then I also need to like remind myself of that. And so, yeah, a lot of my travels, was kind of just like this big introspection and spending time with myself to, I guess just arrive at this much better place within myself. And I feel like when I gave myself that space, like, a lot of things just started happening and a lot of momentum started to pick up. And I feel like even though I don't really attach to the 12-month calendar per se in the new year, but like I feel like it is, there's a new energy in the air.
Yeah,
and,
that's
and it kind of feels like I was saying yesterday, we're kind of like the roles are reversed in a way. Like I feel like I'm really finding that like purpose, drive, motivation, and you're, coming back in.
Yeah, I'm definitely, like, I've spent the last 5 years, I reckon, on like a tear, like opening businesses, just pushing physically, pushing hard mentally, going into psychedelics, like really just trying to like just rip everything open and find out everything and know everything. And I think you often hit walls, and like those walls are like integration periods. So it's like even my body has started to feel like it's just started to wake up more tired than usual. My mind isn't like thriving on like a thirst for knowledge. I feel like I've taken in so much in the last, 5 years of experience that I can slow down and like rest on that for a little bit and start to consolidate what I do know internally and what I do feel works. And then I think you sit in that cocoon for long enough and then you start to get that desire back and then you step into it again. But I almost think where we go wrong is not having like that internal relationship with like the brake and the accelerator. And I think that's when we get sick. It's just like go, 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 like way too hard and ignoring those needs to brake. And then you got people the other way where they just do nothing and they just got the brakes on, just sitting there. And that's also toxic. So I think everyone's at a different, everyone's going at a different speed. Everyone's integrating at a different time frame. So yeah, it takes just a little bit of awareness, I feel, just to like really stop and just like sit down and just be like, what am I actually feeling? Like, do I actually feel good in what I'm doing? Or is this exhausting me? Is it energizing me? And for me, it's like at the moment, everything's going amazing, but definitely feeling a season of slowing down and connecting and, getting back to the family and just simplifying life a little bit. So, yeah.
Oh, it's really cool, man.
Yeah, thanks,
and
bro.
I like what you said that, everyone's kind of almost in a different season, And
Yeah, fully.
I think when we can recognize that, we also, can have a lot more empathy for others and like where they might be at. And everyone just has their own process.
Yeah.
I guess like what I wanted to ask on that topic is, I think in the society that we live in, we're very wired to be always on the move, always on the go, always needing to be doing something. And it feels like maybe one of the biggest blocks for a lot of people to slow down is like not having the foundation to be able to slow down. So, I guess what I'm asking is like, from your perspective, do you feel like there's a process in getting to this point where you can now allow more space for yourself? Or is that something that everyone has, and can make time for?
It's so funny. It's such a good question, but I almost reckon that like it's just a mindset. You don't necessarily have to have like hours off work and like thousands of dollars behind you to take space. I feel like taking space can be almost like a decision that you make within yourself to be like non-engaging in an energy for growth right now. So how that looks is like I'm still doing all my responsibilities. Like that's not going to change, but am I going to put that same like neurotic thought process and growth mindset and like almost over energetic demeanor to it? No, it like means like walking around the house slower. It means like spending more time just sitting down and reading a book. It means like less time scrolling on my phone. It means being more present with my partner. It means more time in nature, but doesn't mean like needing months off work and not going after my business. No, I feel like it's very, very small adjustments made throughout the day and an attitude adjustment where you literally make a decision within yourself where you say, I give myself permission over these next few months to be more present and push less. So it's just like, it's like a way of being. It doesn't necessarily mean that like from the outside world, my whole life needs to look any different. It's just like this internal state in which I just move throughout the world now, if that makes sense.
Totally, man. And I think that was very well put because, I almost feel like there's this misconception between like people that have the time and like they've created the time as well, you know, like that they have this like privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you're able to kind of like wrap that up in a way that's digestible. Because it's like it's really kind of just on us, and I think that the more that we can live moment to moment, like day to day, and be aware of, I guess the habits that we're carrying, or as you said, kind of like asking yourself, like, is this energizing me?
Yeah,
or is
fully.
this depleting me? You know, it's like just asking those questions, I guess, on a more consistent basis.
Yeah. It can sometimes turn a little bit introspective because, like, I think I can go like that, but sometimes it's like I'm literally at the gym or I'm at boxing and the thought of being there is so driven by, like, my ego because when I'm there, I'm actually not enjoying it and there's actually no side of my body that really wants to be there. And even after it, you do get those good endorphins, but there's still a questioning of, I think I betrayed myself a little bit by flogging myself more. It's weird. And I think as you get older, you start to wake up and, like, you know, like I'm all about getting up at 4:30 a.m. and I still do that. But, like, some mornings I'm getting up and you're like, really, man, what's this for? Is it actually for a healthier mind and body, or is it just turning into ego now? And the ego is built around discipline. And I know that I've constructed an ego around being disciplined. And that then goes into, like, doing an ice bath. And I'm like over the last few weeks, I've had a couple of ice baths, and actually in them, I notice my ego just constantly trying to punish myself to build my ego around more discipline. But then when I'm finished the ice bath, I feel my body telling me, like, that's actually not what we need. That's actually not beneficial. We need sleep. We just need some rest. And so I think it's becoming the observer and just having such a, like, an in-tune relationship with your egoic self and, like, your true self, and being like, which one am I feeding more? And, like, what do you really need and want at your core? And often for someone like me who's built an ego around discipline, it's not more discipline. It's more subtleness. It's more gentleness. It's more presence. So I'm like...
Which is a form of discipline.
Fully. Yeah,
So
fully.
maybe it's just shape shifting.
Yeah, it's my perspective on discipline though. My
Yeah.
perspective on discipline is it needs to hurt and it needs to be hard.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, that's not always the case. Being able to sit still is discipline too.
Yeah, man. And it comes back to like seasons as well, right?
Yeah,
You got to
fully.
know what season you're in because, yeah, I guess from my own experience in becoming a bit more stagnant, I almost needed to like be hyper disciplined to like get up when I didn't want to get up and do the things I didn't want to do. So now I know I can.
Yeah, exactly. It's proving to yourself that you can.
Yeah. But it's also kind of made me realize that that's like, not who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of just have this like slow burn.
And you need to go to the far left and to the far right to find your center.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
most of the time, like I definitely think it's important for every man to go too far into either extremes. And you realize between going to the far left and the far right, you're like, they're both not me and they're both not sustainable. And then you pick a place of like, equilibrium. It's like you're just like, I don't know, I feel like you found some like center, homeostasis, like you return back to like your true self after going to the left and to the right. You're like, all right, this is where I need to be. And that's a sweet spot, you know? Yeah. We're all trying to find that though.
Yeah, totally. It's a lot I think you got to let go of to find that as well.
And, you know, I think like I recognize even with you and me, like you just recognize like even in our friendship group, all the boys, everyone gets stuff done and everyone goes about it their own way. And like sometimes you can witness and observe the strengths in others more than they can see them in their self.
Yeah, man.
So like with you, what I see is like it just your whole vibe, like who you are just doesn't suit like a hustle culture. I feel like who you are, it looks like you tap in and you do well when you go at your own pace.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a non-forced type of pace. And that even like, it looks like you're like that in your scootering. It's like flowy. It's like nothing looks forced. You know what I mean? It looks like you do well when you get into a state of flow. And then you see other guys, like I have other friends, and they do well when they push. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like about, I feel like you learn a lot from other people too. It's just like, when's my time to ebb? When's my time to flow? When's my time to push? When's my time to release? And it's just like this constant relationship. But I think you can identify in individuals when they're in like a bit of a zone, and that zone looks different for all of us.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I appreciate the reflection too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's funny because I've recognized something similar in you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the structure and the routine and all of that. And there was almost a part of me that thought that I needed to do that and like tried to do that. And I've like taken that inspiration from a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the more I've sat with myself and kind of like asked myself the more relevant questions, like how does this make me feel?
Yeah.
Am I energized or not? Like what it's come back to is like there's structure, but there's like no routine.
No,
so there's like
fully
a list of things that I want to do every day.
Yeah.
But there's like no order, no time frame, no like, cut off.
If that's your thing, I reckon go for it. For me, it's like you got to think it's like we're always trying to portray exactly what we're not. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel the need to try and portray that on Instagram. So it's like maybe on Instagram, I look like I've got all my shit together and I'm so structured and I'm routined. And I actually am. I am routined. I am structured. Everything in this house is fucking like spotless. My food is elite. But that's because there's so much chaos going on up here that I need to cling to those structures and those routines so that I feel some form of stability. But someone like yourself, I feel like you operate at such a calmer level. You don't need to have as many structures and routines set into place to have your mind operating efficiently. You can operate with flow, with ease, because you have a lot more presence and awareness probably. Whereas myself, I've always been like this. I'm impatient. I want to do everything, and I can tend to just jump from one thing to the next and be cooking my meal while looking at my phone and being at the gym while thinking about running and running while thinking I should be at the gym, and it just never ends. So for me, the structure is sanity. Do you know what I mean? And what I'm realizing now, what's been highlighted to me over the last few weeks in the retreat is like, dude, the structure may not be there forever. So you need to build sanity within. I need to build not these external routines and practices that I have. I need to start implementing like internal routines and practices so that the world can turn to chaos and I can feel zen. So I think that's my next path. And
I love that a lot, man.
yeah, I'm actually excited. I know I'm gonna get there. So it's cool. Like I'm gonna put the work in, you know?
Yeah, incredible, man. I do relate to a lot of that because I feel like I have a similar structure in my life, and without it, I would be all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's I guess what I've learned about myself and how I can come to the conclusion I've made is like I've created all of these structures without the structure and the foresight to like write it down and do it. It's kind of just like, oh, I want to eat better food. And I'll start, with, getting organic coffee. And then it just slowly compounds. And then now I'm at a point where I'm like probably the most strict that I've ever been with food.
Yeah.
But it almost isn't something I think about.
And what will happen though is your biggest strength will turn into your biggest weakness, because I can relate. And what tends to happen is like you make a small decision like I want to eat better. You start eating better. Then it's all organic. And then I always have to drink like the best filtered water. And then it turns into shit. What am I going to do if I go out with friends? What am I going to eat? And then it turns into what if I get invited to this family person's house and, they got tap water and shit food. And then it turns into like what was your strength now starts to turn against you and turn into like a neurotic obsession about food. And it's like, what's healthier? You know what I mean? And then it's like, that's where we come back to that, like coming back to that center point where you're like, I've gone so far left into healthy, it's becoming unhealthy. Come back to the middle. I can still go out. I can have a pizza. I can have a glass of wine. Then that can turn into like doing that every night. You come back. And I feel like the truth lies in the middle. And that means like benefiting your body, mind, and soul, not just your body. Because sometimes when you focus so much on what you're physically eating, it's like you almost treat yourself like there's no spirit or soul. It's just your body. And I've gone there so many times. It's like, dude, I'm so much more than this and I'm not fragile. I can have some junk food and I will be fine because I am health. I don't need to just keep clinging to health with every small decision. But it's a balance, man. And it's torture sometimes because it's like two voices in your mind going all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't relate more, man.
Yeah.
And like for me, going to Southeast Asia was a big transition for me when it comes to food, because like being in Byron, which is where I was for 18 months before that, like I truly think the best food on the planet is here.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of like local farmers and the quality of the soil. Anyway, I got so engulfed in that like anything that wasn't that was like toxic.
Yeah.
And so anytime I traveled, that my strength would turn into my weakness, which is
Yeah.
like I wouldn't be in a good state emotionally, physically, spiritually, because I'm like, what am I going to eat? Do I have to like fast kind of thing?
Yeah, I fully
And I'm
feel
not
that.
stabilized, and it's
Yeah.
actually way better for me. And I'm glad that I was able to experience it, but just to sit down and enjoy the food that a culture has to offer, you know, and not think too deeply into it.
Yeah, man. I think it was Laird Hamilton said this. He's like one of the healthiest dudes for his age in the world. And I reckon he's a weapon. He's just got such a good mindset. He's like, I try and build my body to be like a diesel truck, not a fine-tuned Ferrari.
Wow.
And he's like, you know, he's like, you put the wrong fuel in a Ferrari just once and like the whole thing's just capitulates. And he's like, I want to be like a diesel truck. He's like, I'm unstoppable. You know, I can be on a 24-hour stopover and smash a few burgers at McDonald's. But like, you know, I know as soon as I get back to my thing, it's all good. But I'm not so delicate that I can't just, you know, get some food in my system just to get through. And I was like really relating to that because I believe one thing that actually has deteriorated my health has never been the food or the physical side. It's been my mental side attached to the belief systems around food. So I think like if anything was going to make me sick, it would never be like me having a few hamburgers or croissants. It would be me just thinking so toxic and negatively about what I'm eating that's actually doing the real damage, you know? So, yeah, I'm just finding my balance too, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a good bout of starvation would fix that.
Yeah. Well, it's cool though, because I can pull this back to what you mentioned before, which is like the need to go to the extremes, because then we like come to these understandings because of it.
Yeah, bro.
So it has its place.
I've gone to the extremes.
Yeah.
Not in the junk food. I've never gone down the extremes in the junk, but
it's like the other way around, eh?
Yeah, I've gone the extremes into the
health
health
we
world.
probably did when we were younger.
Oh yeah, I used to thrive off like hot chips with chicken salt and like Coke at the skate park.
We have had the other extreme.
Yeah. And I felt amazing off it. Yeah.
Probably because you weren't thinking, probably because you were like more excited about what that was to you. You know?
Mum would give us like $5 for me and my two younger brothers. And like back in the day, I'm 35 now. So like when I was like 12, 13, if you had $5 of chips at the fish and chip shop, you could like, that was like undigestible for three dudes. And then you get another $2 and we used to buy like, remember those like in the they weren't in the freezer section. They was just like the 2-liter Cokes and they used to be like 75, 80 cents. I just used to live off chips and chicken salt and Coca-Cola and like skate for hours all day. It was just
skate
like
park lunchbox.
I love it, man. I sometimes wish that I could go back to that side of my personality and just experience that like ignorance is bliss feeling.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny. I was having a conversation with my brother not too long ago, and he was saying he was like, he works on a job site, and he's just like, man, all of these people around me like drinking like dare iced coffees, smashing sausage rolls every day, and like there's nothing wrong with them. They get it done and they push through. But then there's me, like who's trying to like, and my brother's like eating healthier and being more conscious, and he's just the one suffering in the corner. It's like the more you go deeper into all of it, like you can like be pulled in like too far.
It's all energy, man. You're either using energy to resist it or just energy to enjoy it. So pick your battles, eh?
Yeah. And I've been there 100%.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I remember using the example of, you can have like a grass-fed steak, and that might be the most nutritious and best quality meat that you can buy. But if you don't have the awareness and the intention to know how nourishing that's going to be, you're probably just better off going with the cheaper option.
Yeah, it's the mind-body connection. It's
Yeah.
the mind-body connection always over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many studies that prove, like, even when you do yoga, setting your intentions and actually feeling what you would like it to do for your body, like physically preparing for the gym, like going in there and, you know, setting intentions and bringing more awareness and isolating the muscle in your mind and visioning it growing. Like I feel like you can just bring so many more layers of awareness to everything that you do. And maybe that's a little biohack to eat your shitty food, but to like just put so much love and intention into it that you alchemize the fucking food and you turn it into like gold. That might be it.
And like we have the power to do that. Like that study's been done with water and plants. It's like, you heard about that that they do it in schools, and they'll have like 2 plants, and they get like all the kids to like bully one plant.
I've seen that.
And then give love to the other plant, and yeah, you already know what happens. It's like,
man.
So real.
Yeah, we need love.
Yeah.
Everything needs love.
Yeah, man.
Observation effects matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
Oh, that's cool, bro.
Yeah, amazing. Well, let's segue a little bit. I think what sparked this idea to sit down was like a conversation we were having. I guess like the masculine, feminine poles and relationships. And,
yeah.
I was like looking for someone to speak to about it because it's been like a big theme.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't think of you. Because
It's all right, man.
I feel like you've got, and especially now being engaged, like you have this like template that maybe a lot of people are unfamiliar to and just haven't seen before. And I think when that experience is shared, it can just like flick a switch for a lot of people, and it certainly has for me. It's just kind of like recognizing that, yeah, maybe how we've been doing things isn't quite it.
Yeah, man.
And I very much believe that there's, whether you're like masculine or feminine within your own nature, and whether you're a man or a woman, these poles like are going to be there regardless.
Yeah, you need the polarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess in terms of like where we can take this, how do you feel like you've navigated where you're at now and the relationship that you have? Do you feel like you've always had the beliefs that you've had, or they've developed over time with, just your own evolution? Or
I guess, man, like, I feel like the truth never leaves you. It always sits like somewhere within your body. So I feel like I've always had the same beliefs and the same feelings and core values have existed in me always. I think voices from the outside world get so loud that they drown out that inner voice of what you know is right. But I think the more that you connect back to yourself, the louder that internal voice gets, and the clearer and the more firm that you stand within your own beliefs, because you've made a connection to yourself, and because you're so in tune with that belief and that voice that resonates within you, the outside noise stops. And when the outside noise stops, it allows you to make clear and decisive decisions based on the internal voice that you're connected to. And in my, I guess, experience with relationships, it's led me to lots of pain, and it's also led me to a deep place of understanding of the dynamics between men and women. And almost, you can call it a story, but I like to identify with it as like this feeling that I get when the dynamic is right.
Yeah.
And what me and you spoke about the other day to get straight to
well,
it.
let's like, what is that for you?
Yeah. So that feeling for me is being with a woman that allows me to be completely in my purpose, and not only allows me, but supports me to chase my purpose. Because what I was saying to you is, I believe if a woman tries to pull you away from your purpose and into hers, you're either going to end up leaving her or you're going to go and do your thing anyway. So men are so purpose driven, if you're in your masculine, that if you're with the wrong woman, you're going to just cause her hell and you're going to cause yourself hell. Because if she doesn't come along for the ride, you're going to be dragging her along the whole way and eventually moving off and leaving her. And if she does come along for the ride and doesn't support it, because perhaps she wants to do her own thing, you're going to end up parting ways, because nothing gets in the way of a driven man's purpose. Nothing. No woman, no nothing. So what I've come to realize within me is that I will never go as far as I could if I didn't have my supportive woman with me. And I feel that's testament to the power of a good relationship. And what that means is, and I'm not saying that's everybody's ideal relationship, but for me, if I feel supported in the areas that I need support, it allows me to become the best provider and the best man that I can in order to fulfill my partner's needs. So myself, I'm a very purpose-driven man, and I know exactly what I want and where I'm going. And if I didn't have someone that supported that, then they couldn't partake in my life. But I do have a partner who supports that and really comes along for the ride and enables me to do that. And in the process of me chasing my purpose and feeling that masculine presence, it allows me to be a masculine presence for her femininity. And it allows me to stand strong. It allows me to stand confident. It allows me to feel like the man. And it allows me to do what I do best, which is to provide a safe space and provide. And it also allows her to step into her feminine and nurture and support and use her kindness and use all of the beautiful feminine qualities. And when we come from those two extremes, the polarity just pushes us into the middle and we're attracted to each other. We work well as a team and life actually starts to run smoothly. But I think where we've gone wrong as a society is this whole feminine culture kind of dismantling women who take that support role and almost thinking that they are less of a woman because they're not chasing a career or chasing secular success. But then you've got a whole generation of women over 30 on Tinder complaining about no guys want to date them. No guys want anything to do with them. They all get screwed over. It's like, because, dude, you will not surrender to a man. You will not let him provide and you will not support him. So what do you need from him? If you need nothing from him and he has nothing to give you, he's not going to be attracted to you. And it's sad because weak men have pushed women into their masculine. So they've made all these poor women just have to fight for themselves and fend for themselves on their own in the world. But now these women have learned how to do it. And now they realize that they don't need the man. But at the same time, they don't need the man. They want the man. But now the man doesn't want that type of woman. So now you've got these massive, just fucked up situation. And I do believe it's the man's responsibility to fix it, though.
Yeah, and this is I think you put that so perfectly, man. It is comical.
Yeah,
I think, and I think we do need to come at it with somewhat of a humorous
you have to
approach, because it's pretty far gone. I think what I want to just highlight is, like, when we're like in talking about these ideas, there's a lot of accountability to take on both sides.
Fully.
And because it is the two opposing poles, you can't have one without the other. So like no matter what side you're on, there's a level of responsibility and action that you need to take to kind of flip these poles.
100%,
if
man.
that's what you want to do.
And like what I'm saying is this is from my personal experience. And it's like, if you're happy doing it your way, what I just said shouldn't trigger you at all. Because if you found a way that works for you, who cares what anyone else is doing? Do your thing. But I think if you're slightly triggered by that, it's because you're not happy in what you're doing. Because when you are happy in what you're doing, you don't really care about anything else. So
Yeah.
what I think is just like live and let live. So I'm going to live my way. And it's like, if you want to live your way, do your thing. But from my personal experience, from the work that I do working with people, I see both sides of the story. I feel like the feminine race has just been neglected by feminine men, and the men have pushed them into being masculine. And then now the men are saying like, well, like, I don't want a strong, independent woman. They're too much. And it's like, well, we push them there.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do we bring them back?
Yeah.
And the responsibility lies in the men, I feel.
I think so. And again, it kind of, we're treading on some toes, I feel like. But I think the masculine role, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, is to take the lead.
Fully. That's
so
it.
It's like, I don't think that can be ignored.
And what that means is like the man doesn't have to be the masculine one. You might have a masculine female and a feminine male. That's fine. That dynamic works perfectly because it has polarity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't feel like, the energy doesn't matter in which gender it resides. You just have to have the polarity within the relationship. But traditionally speaking, that's the way it normally works, is the man with the masculine energy and the woman with the feminine energy. But I know plenty of amazing relationships where the woman takes on more of that dominant masculine role, and that works great, and that's fine.
I think it's more about recognizing who you are.
Exactly.
And what you need. Yeah.
But I think it's also zooming out and not only looking at what you want and just looking at the bigger picture and being like, hey, what's going on? There's patterns here.
What does society need? Yeah,
what does society need? Yeah. And that's, that's where you start going into becoming like a real king, where you stop looking at your own fucking like personal feelings and you start to go like, what's the best for my kin? Like, what's the best for my kingdom? If I'm a man and I'm a king and I'm trying to build a kingdom, not every decision that I make is based on the emotion that I feel right now. It's like, how do I make decisions based on the partner that I choose now that's going to benefit my kids? And that's like looking at a partner and being like, will she be a good mother? Not only that, will she be a good grandmother? Can she carry this kingdom and hand it to the next generation better than she found it? Yeah. And that goes with the king too. Or do you base all of your decisions based on your immediate feelings now of attraction towards someone and, potentially stay with someone because of the way they look, knowing that it could destroy your seed and your kingdom later on? It requires awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And it takes, I think, a lot to, I think, make that decision as a man, because there's very few examples of it. And it is kind of like weirdly this kind of like re-emerging dynamic, which I think is kind of like part of a bigger plan of what, as a culture and society we do need, which is a stronger masculine pole.
And haven't you noticed that just coming up everywhere?
Everywhere. And it's, I think like the importance of it to me, and I guess I can kind of highlight how I digest it.
Yeah.
Which is like in my past relationships, without this awareness, I've almost been like acting from a shadow of like not really recognizing.
Myself too.
Yeah. Like not recognizing what I need.
Yeah.
And what I deserve.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I'm not receiving what I need and what I deserve. And then I have nothing to give.
Yeah.
And because I have nothing to give, it just crumbles. And
it's also you not knowing what your role is and what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important of us, like for us men, to like when we first get in a relationship, and like I wish I knew this stuff when I was younger, but I don't. I know it now. So all I can do is implement it now. Is literally say to someone, "I would like to give you this. I will give you all of this. This is what I need. Can you give me that?" And you literally sit down and have a conversation where you say like, "I need support. I need love. I need nurturing, and I need someone to confide in. Can you be that?" That's what I need. And then you're like, but what I would like to give you is I want to give you financial stability. I want to provide for you. I want to be a rock for you. I want to be stable through your unstable emotions. And I want to provide a really safe space for us to make children. And you literally sit down and have a conversation. But it's like, instead of having a hard conversation like that, you just avoid it and get 5 years into a relationship and you're like, why is this not even working? And it's like, well, we went into this business agreement with no fucking terms and conditions. It was just like a free for all. And, you know, because people change and we all change as years go by, it's those contracts, it's those conversations that keep us accountable. And then like we can revert back to them and say, listen, like if stuff ever gets weird, I feel like I've been upholding my end of the bargain. Do you still want to come to the party and uphold yours? And it's just like knowing what both of our roles are. Otherwise we get in a relationship and like, you know.
Well, it's not a team. It's like two individuals.
Fully.
If it's not that.
And it's funny because like, you know, when you first meet someone, like traditionally speaking, it's like girls are attracted to dudes who are like going about and just getting it, whether that's like in their sport, they're going out there acting or their fucking career or they're getting in shape, whatever it is, they're attracted to that ambition and a man following his purpose. But then what happens is they get that man, and if that man is not really centered and aware, he will push pause on his purpose and turn around, and then the girl will go, yes, now I've got you. And he'll just ignore his purpose and stop chasing. But then now he's chasing nothing. She has nothing to chase. He turns around and just goes, I'll give you everything. And then she starts losing attraction towards him. And she's like, I don't know, I'm just not feeling the same anymore. And then he doesn't get it. And then he's given up on himself and now she's given up on him. And I believe that's where the polarity is. The man is always chasing freedom and the woman's always chasing security. And there's an ebb and flow, man.
It's a great example. And I think one that, I can almost highlight where there's a role to play for both parts, which is like the man needs to choose a woman that supports his vision so that continues in the direction it's going. And at the
100%.
At the same time, the woman, if she's looking to get presence, safety, you know, love, connection, she needs to be looking at like, how can I support him?
Yes.
So that he has energy to give me.
100%. And he also needs to go about his purpose. And I found this like massive in my relationship. You need to go about and do your thing. But I feel like girls, they're never nagging you. Like the way the superior man says, they're never nagging you. They're never pestering you. They're just constantly trying to test that you're solid. So every now and then you need to just turn around from doing your things and just be like, you know, I've got you 100%. Like, you don't need to worry about anything. I've got this under control, and you're at the forefront of this plan, and I love you. And then they pull back for a bit and you got to do your thing. And then the security issues start to come up and they press you again. And then you got to turn around and be that rock and give them that security. But what most men do is they're going about their thing and the girl starts nagging them. They're not nagging them. They're just trying to seek some validation and security. And instead of the dude just turning around and just going, hey, don't worry, we're solid. I got you. You're safe. It's all good. I'm going to give you an hour of my time right now. We're going to go get some food together because I value you. They go, oh, man, stop nagging me. You're pissing me off. You're just so fucking annoying. And what happens is then the girl pushes harder because now you've shown the girl I can't provide you with security. So she keeps going and going and going when all you really need to do is just give her some love for a minute and reassure her, and then you can move on. So it's like, us men really need to learn that, like, women aren't nagging. They're just trying to get some security.
Yeah, and I think that's where the leadership comes in because, you know, you're kind of like seeing, you're able to see both sides.
Yeah.
And you're choosing to make a decision that's beyond how you feel.
Fully.
Yeah.
It's recognizing, it's like rising above the situation and just looking down on it and just seeing the energies at play rather than taking everything so personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love that. There was this example. I think there's a TV show, like I have no idea. Like there's a TV show about love and dating apparently at the moment. And I saw this
We
clip.
both don't have TVs.
Yeah. There was like this clip and I saw it on Instagram is how I saw it. And it's basically like, yeah, this reality TV show where this woman was basically challenging the guy, being like, you're giving it all your attention to all of these other women. And it ended up becoming like this conversation where the guy was trying to justify himself by saying that, like, no, you're a 9 out of a 10. And they're like, you know, like he was, rather than making the focus about her, he was trying to like back himself up.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to watch.
Yeah, it was because he could have handled it so much better.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that, you know, there's people watching it at home thinking maybe consciously or unconsciously that's how we behave.
Yeah, I think Hollywood, man, has put up so much fucking distorted visions of what relationships should look like. Yeah. And, you know, people underestimate the power of subliminal messaging. Like when you watch hours and hours and hours and hours of things that aren't reality, your brain doesn't know the difference, and thinking it's that's reality, your brain starts to shape itself based on these behaviors that it's surrounded by, which is the TV. And that's why they call them a tell-lie vision, you know. Yeah. They tell a lie through a vision, and then they use the fucking remote control. They control you remotely, and it's just like, that's personally why I don't have a TV. I just think that nothing good in my life comes from having a fucking TV. Yeah. I'll pick my poison scrolling on Instagram.
Yeah, well, that's like the modern day thing. I think what's very different though about, I guess, the modern equivalent is that we have agency over what's on.
Yeah.
We're not just given, you know, this is the schedule, like Home and Away is on at this time, and then the news, it's like, no, we actually get to choose what's on the schedule. Yeah. And I think that's a very different ball game.
Oh, 100%.
But it's also, I think if you're not, disciplined around that then phones definitely have the same effect. You're picking up.
And man, I look at my phone so much. Like I'm not standing on a platform. Like I'm addicted. Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
We all are. I think it was like Morgan Freeman even said something like, if you can't go without anything for like 3 days, you've got a problem. Yeah,
man, it's true.
Yeah.
I went without my phone for 4 days and it was hard. It was weird. on the retreat, we couldn't touch the phone, and it's become an unconscious pattern just to pick it up and look at it. It's so ingrained in our psyche now. I almost feel like it's an extension of our arm, you know. It's and no one escapes phone addiction. Like, older people are obsessed with them, younger kids are obsessed with them, adults are obsessed with them, teenagers, like it gets every age group. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, no one's immune to the phone, you know?
No. Yeah, we're up against a lot. But yeah, I guess it's a big reason why I want to create my own content, you know? It's like balancing it out.
Yeah, man. Like, we're hating on phones, and this will be on someone's phone playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're part of the addiction. We're like building these whole businesses around those things. Like, we're building like whole businesses so people can see more on a phone. It's pretty
yeah,
fun.
And potentially be more distracted. But
yeah. Well, I hope that
risk.
It's a good distraction.
Well, I think so too. It's like,
yeah, man.
Yeah. I think the more people, or just like a good filter to kind of like look at phones and social media from is like, yeah, just whether you're using them to consume or create.
Yeah, fully.
And I think there's nothing wrong with consuming, but we probably should be creating at least at a similar rate to what we're consuming.
100%. And
ideally,
the hard thing is everyone's creating for consumers. So that's the paradox.
Yeah, you're still going to need an audience.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we got to be on our phones just to create, not consume.
Yeah.
So we'll create stuff for the consumers. It's actually comical, isn't it?
It is, man.
Yeah. Well.
I wonder if there's like an endpoint to that though, whether if enough people created their own content, people would just stop consuming it.
Well, you know what? The end game is there's so much out there that people just get sick of it, and people just start to go back to community. They stop looking at their phone. You start going to hang out at the park. You start sitting down with your family. You start playing board games. It's like, I actually feel part of the world is already waking up to this shit.
100%.
Yeah, myself included.
I think podcasting is a big example of that too.
Yeah.
Which is like people are craving conversation.
Yeah, fully. Yeah.
You know, because it's like so foreign.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and good conversation. And I think a lot of people are really into podcasts at the moment because they want to feel stimulated and they want to feel intellectually like alive. Whereas like, you know, I feel like the world is, my personal beliefs are that the world's getting almost divided into two at the moment. And it's like, I feel like back in the 90s and early 2000s, it's like we were all on this kind of like same plane of existence. And like the only thing separating us was really like our hobbies. But for some reason at the moment, especially since all the shit that's gone on with the world over the last few years, I feel like there's been like this massive separation, and it's kind of like either pushed you into like self-work and like spirituality and like health and like understanding the why we do the things that we do, or you've either chosen to just put your blinkers on more and just go back the other way and get deeper and deeper into the system and reaffirm the, you know, the narrative of the system. So I feel like I can quite quickly in the first 5 minutes of meeting someone just get this like feeling within my body as to where they sit on those two sides. And quite rarely am I meeting people in the middle anymore. I don't know about yourself. I feel like there's a massive divide.
It's almost like you can't sit on the fence anymore.
No, the stakes are too high at the moment to sit on the fence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think I've realized that in my own way too. I'm like, particularly with like my relationship to something higher, God, the universe, you know, it's like I can't be in the middle anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, that is a part of me, you know?
Fully, man. There's a good scripture in the Bible that says like, God says like, either be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll vomit you out. And it's like,
wow.
it's really the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you got to decide what path you're on, choose your code of ethics, and fucking live and die by them.
Yeah.
Because that's what's gotten to our society to the point that it is having like no container or line is like, that's too far. And you're just seeing the lines being blurred on every sense of the word. Like, you know, being an addict on prescription drugs now is like, I don't know, it's considered like almost normal. Like, everyone's just doing prescription drugs. It's like recreational drugs now. If you did recreational drugs, it was kind of like, oh, you know, that was a bit of a thing back in the day. It's like everyone's doing drugs. It's like putting a photo up in a bikini on Instagram back in the day was like, whoa, like she's out there. And now it's like you've just got like average girls with full-time jobs, like fully just doing stuff on the internet on OnlyFans for money. It's like, where did the lines are just being so like blurred now. It's like the gap between like pornography and like other stuff is just like slowly creeping in. And it's like, you imagine another 10 years from now, it's like the lines are just getting more blurred. It's like, it's just going to be a big free for all.
Yeah. I hear all of that, man. What's actually coming up is, in everything that you just shared, almost what I see is happening is like this unconscious, like we're playing out this unconscious play of going to the extremes.
Yeah.
To somehow find
Oh,
somewhere in the middle. Like, and it's like, you could use that example with hypermasculine women.
yeah.
And pornography, some like where the music industry has gotten to, you know,
100%,
we kind of, I think in a way it's almost a good thing that we're hitting the extremes.
Yeah, man.
But it's certainly chaotic.
You know what? It's The Science of Getting Rich, man. It's the best book, but it says you've got to see the world as always being in the exact place that it has to be in order for God's will to transcend. So it's like, this place has to go to the depths of cest. So you're like, this is it. Like, it has to. This is epic. Like you said, so that better can come from it. Like, it has to hit the extremes. And like, everything we've spoken about today just ties back to that, like coming back to the center. Because like, I think, like you said, unconsciously, because it's happening so incrementally, people aren't even realizing how screwed it is. And all these things like porn and OnlyFans and all this shit that are being like pumped out as being like self-invigorating and like empowering. It's like, yeah, cool. How do you actually measure that that's working? Because if you were to measure the state of relationships and the state of mental illness and the state of like females in general, I don't think all those things have worked to their advantage.
No.
If anything, it's contributed to just more pain and more suffering under the guise of self-empowerment. So it has to keep getting worse so that we can come back and find the middle ground again.
So good, man. And I feel like you just answered my question I was going to ask. So good. Just like about like, what I was going to bring up is like female empowerment and like the over sexualization and like where that's gotten to. And I think you just summarized it. Yeah. But it's, I feel like it's really relevant because there was like, did you see that thing being shared around about Gold Coast 9 News talking about like they're like bringing in a debate for regulation about what you can wear on and off the beach. And they're kind of like bringing it's really surprising in mainstream news. I think, it's a little bit questionable really, but yeah, just kind of like not allowing like women to wear like thongs if they leave the beach and like go into like general stores and stuff like that.
It's here everywhere in bars.
It is everywhere, and I don't think that is the example of what I'm referring to as like
I haven't seen
over.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an example of like over sexualization, and it's not attributed to sexualization a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I do think we've gone a little bit too far.
Yeah.
To the point where the sexualization that women put on show actually acts as a detriment to what they're wanting in a man.
100%, man. And it's like, it's so funny, but it's like, you know, the whole thing around attraction, like everything in life, man. Why the hell do you have a trailer for a movie? It's to give you a fucking snippet of what you're going to be getting. And often the trailer sometimes is actually better than the movie itself. But when you give everything as a female, when you overly sexualize yourself for free, you're giving everyone the free movie. There's nothing left for the imagination. It's like this is everything. So there's no mystery to it. There's nothing. And I think that women, and it's sad that the younger generation often thinks that like more is more. But it's like, no, man, less is more. And us men, we're so territorial. Yeah, we'll sleep with a hot girl. No questions asked. But do we want to claim something as being ours if it's so readily available to everyone else? Hell no. And I know not many guys will have the balls to say that, but it's the truth. If a guy knows that a girl has slept with heaps of dudes and she's on everyone's phone, he's still going to go for her and give her attention, but will he want to claim her as his own? No way.
I don't think so. And I think that translates to like what men want the most, which is like respect and support. And if they're putting themselves on show, that kind of communicates a lack of respect and a lack of support.
And it shows a lack of respect for the man's natural operating systems, which is territorial, which is dominant, which can be aggressive, and which you know, and what that does is, if the woman persists on acting like that while being with the man, then you put him in two boxes. He either submits to you and, you know, then you lose respect for him, or he leaves you. But then what happens is he often loves you, so he'll stay with you, and then you'll lose the respect. He'll lose his respect. And then now the girl no longer has respect or attraction towards him. And now he's staying there just as like a wet noodle of a man with no backbone.
And it's sad how common that is.
You just see it all the time. Yeah. Whereas like, I think, man, I just see it. I just see it as sad. And that, I'm not talking about being like frigid or just like, because I believe like the most beautiful thing is a woman's sexuality, but how readily available it is it's whack.
Well, it's something that I've thought about recently, which seems to be landing as pretty true, which is like, at least when we're talking about, you know, like quite an intelligent woman, she's carrying a lot of awareness.
Yeah.
That type of woman typically is looking for, you know, the qualities in a man that we've been discussing.
Yes.
Right. And they don't want to be treated as an object.
Yeah.
They don't want to be seen as disposable.
Yeah.
But I think what I see happening quite a lot is, even within that group of women, there's still this like over sexualization that is kind of like being birthed through this like women's empowerment movement. And what I see as a detriment is when women are acting from their sexuality, which is sacred and a part of us.
Yeah.
I think when we're acting from that place and it's not in a divine union,
Yeah.
you're as a man, that's signaling your primitive radar.
Yes.
And for a lot of men, that's bringing their awareness from here down to here.
Yeah, fully.
And then the women, are operating with this dynamic where like men aren't actually carrying this awareness up here. Like they've been almost like reeled in by a trailer.
And it's like you show bananas to get monkeys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll show you my bananas to get monkeys. It's like you're putting out the bait to catch your fish. And if you're putting out all the right things, you're going to attract a certain type of fish. You know what I mean? And then when you get that fish, it's like, don't complain that you got that fish with the bait that you were putting out. That's just how it goes. You know what I mean? And like, I think powerful girls rest in their energy that they emit. They don't need to show you anything. They can just look at you in the eyes and they can snap your attention. They don't need to show you all their goods. They can do it through elegance. They can do it through grace. They can do it through just gentleness and subtleness. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about women is how they can be so subtle. And we're just so fucking abrupt and we're just so brute. And then when you get women just being so abrupt and just so upfront and just so like open and out there, it's kind of like, whoa, like where's the subtlety? Where's the feminine, like, I don't know, the softness? There's just none. So I actually think all that like over-sexualization of the women, that's a very masculine thing because that's how we think. We're over-sexualizing. And then they're over-sexualizing themselves and telling us not to over-sexualize them. But it's like, hey, that's our nature.
And I will say that men have a role to play in facilitating the platforms like OnlyFans to exist.
100%. We're the ones feeding the beast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways again.
But that's why this whole thing, it's up to the men. It's the man's responsibility to fix this, not the women's. I feel like it's the men. It's supply and demand. Like they're supplying because there's a demand.
Yeah.
Stop the demand. Stop your subscription. Stop paying a girl $15 a month or whatever it is just to get naked. Just, you know what? Just say, fuck it. I'm going to invest my money. And you know what? When there's no demand for it, people are going to stop supplying it. But it's everyone's passing the buck and just saying, I don't want to take responsibility of it. I'll give it to the next guy. But it starts with the individual, the collective is just a fucking expression of the individual. Yeah. So definitely takes accountability as an individual, not passing the buck all the time. So it's on us, eh?
It's on us. Yeah.
Yeah, man. What is it? Strong men create good times,
Yeah. And then
good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. We're in a cycle, man. It's so cliche, that saying, but it's like.
Yeah. Do you believe we can get to a point where we're above that? Like where we can create a framework so that cycle doesn't perpetuate?
I 100% believe we're already on the way to a new earth. Yeah. I know that sounds esoteric, but I believe like the way we're living is just so not like up to our human potential. And I believe we could have a template, like you said, based off love. And it's like when you see movies like Avatar and you just see how these people are living, I feel like this belief in me and I'm like, I know we could get there. Like I feel that within myself. Like I see that in all the beautiful people that I meet and that I know. I'm like, I can see us all living like that in harmony, like with respect. And I feel like those type of movies, they show you the beautiful balance of the masculine and feminine in their beautiful roles. And it's like we look at them in a movie and then somehow see ourselves as so different and that like we don't need those roles. And, it's like movies are just showing us like that all the time, that like it's possible to live in harmony and to stay in our roles and to like, complement each other rather than just like compete with each other. Yeah. So,
I guess it's probably that overload, you know, because then you still got all of the cartoons where there's like the fat, overweight husband, and
Fully,
like
bro.
it's yeah, like we don't know what way to go because we've been given all the ways, you know.
All the ways, man. And that's why the only way
Yeah.
is to go within and just feel that,
Yeah.
like I spoke about at the start, is like feel like what works for me and what feels good.
Yeah.
And if what's working for you, you're feeling amazing, then you shouldn't feel triggered by anything that we've spoken about. Because if it's working for you, then that's truth, you know. You're under no threat.
I like that.
But I feel like if we ever get triggered by something, it's because it's bringing something up that is irritating to hear. And normally something's only irritating to hear is when there's a trigger there, and that trigger is caused by potentially a belief that you're not acting on something that you know is true.
Yeah. Amazing, bro.
Yeah, man.
As
good
always.
chat.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to share that's been on your heart recently?
Man, so much, I guess, has been on my heart. But yeah, I think like we spoke about this morning, man, I think one decision that I just constantly need to bring myself back to, because we've all got our own issues. You know, I got issues, everyone does. And one thing that's been resonating with me is choose love over fear. And that's how you evolve your consciousness. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, man, in every little decision, if I feel myself being triggered or if I feel myself being a little bit lost or scared or anxious or depressed or anything, is like, how can I just show more love in this situation? And how can I eliminate fear? So that's it, man. That's my message. Love over fear.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks, bro. Always a good time. Until the next one.